How are you? This is the first time we've spoken face to face.
I know, right? I know. This is crazy, man. I'm so happy to see you.
So funny. You're such a handsome man.
Oh, you're too kind, sir. You're too kind. I'd say likewise. We have too many similarities.
You're a real person.
I know, right? So like, what the hell? I've been talking about you to my guys and to the group for so long. We finally get a chance to talk like almost like real face to face. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm having dreams about being over in Vancouver with you
Oh,
guys.
no
I'm like,
way. No way. Yeah, I saw that. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to reply. Like, have you been thinking about getting out of there for a while now? Like, what's going on?
oh yeah, look, I like traveling because one of the big things out here I found was, we mentioned before by our messages that I don't know if it's like just an inbuilt xenophobia or something, but Australia's got this sort of real chip on its shoulder about its identity. And even to the point that, we've got the RKC and the HKC, the Russian kettlebell system by Dragon Door, for example. Like that was huge out here once upon a time, and then it's all but disappeared. And the only things that's left is this thing called Australian kettlebells. And I'm like, what's Australian kettlebell?
Right.
At all, it's sports kettlebells that they do in the States and in CrossFit and stuff. But I'm like, in my mind, I don't know if it's because I traveled so much. I'm always like, hang on, but the Russians invented kettlebells, so they probably know how to use them better.
Right. That's
so,
nuts. But you think it's just for branding purposes? Because like sometimes people will call things slightly different, just so that way if somebody Googles it, it doesn't get mashed up with all the other information that's out there. You think that might be a thing?
But I've just found that stuff from overseas really has a difficult time taking off here in a big way. I think
like Eastern type stuff, like Eastern.
No, everything. Like it doesn't matter if it's like TACFit or Animal Flow or whatever system is out there. Even Onnit's huge over in the States and Europe, but out here, it's not like I can just pop down to my local Onnit gym or something.
Right.
And it's not for want of trying, but like MoveNet's a huge system. Like I love MoveNet. That's a created by that French guy. It's all based on natural movement. And there is a gym here, but it's like one of maybe two in Australia I know who are like certified in these internationally acclaimed systems that are just out of work or struggling, or just there seems to be a general lack of interest to get involved with it.
What's the big thing out there right now? Like what's hot over in Australia for fitness and martial arts training?
Zumba.
I thought you were kidding, man. I thought you were kidding. I was like, Zumba? Martial arts to Zumba. I mean, no offense to Zumba.
Bikram yoga for a while until they realized he was a raving, pervert.
Well, that's no fun.
And then they all changed to hot yoga.
Less perverts in hot yoga, hopefully.
Yeah. Anything that doesn't require real change,
right.
I think,
right,
for the public. I think what annoys me is that there's a lot of people that learn the systems from overseas, bring it back out here, and then really water it down and claim it is their own thing. Like, did it. And I'm like, we've talked about this a lot. But, their businesses are thriving. And I'm like going, what an opportunity you've missed to really get the true work out there. And all you've done is turned it into this sort of like glamour thing. It's all about the aesthetics, slow motion drone pictures. And here, look at my foot sticking out and smell my toes, I call it. They love to smell my toes poses.
Right. Yeah, the aesthetic thing it's been thanks to social media for sure. Hey, I'm curious. I don't know if I ever got a chance to ask you this. What got you interested in this particular type of training? Because this is different, man. Like this is, obviously, so it's not everyday stuff.
I came from that traditional martial arts background that a lot of people do, and I have nothing against it. Like I think the thing is like, it's like where you and I have that similarity of that because we come from a personal training background. Our interest in people's health, strength, fitness, biomechanics, physiology. All right. Whereas I think with a lot of traditional martial arts and a lot of martial arts schools, full stop, even MMA. Look, I've met a lot of MMA guys who wouldn't know the first thing about physiology. Like, the thing that they do doesn't necessarily mean that they have a knowledge base. Or in either way, they could have a fantastic one or none at all.
Right.
You know, just do a thing doesn't mean you've got it. I mean, how many times have you been to a physio and one physiotherapist is outstanding, and yet somebody else with exactly the same qualifications is appalling? And you're just going like, how did you even get your degree?
That happens. Right.
Yeah. So for me, I just got really interested because when I worked as a laborer and I was building roads, we were pushing about anywhere between 9 and 13 tons of asphalt a day. And basically one wheelbarrow was 1 ton. And you'd be pushing that.
Heavy.
Yeah, man, they're heavy. And when I started, man, I was like falling all over the place. And, you know, because after you push it, you got to tip a bit out for the guys actually filling in the holes in the road, and then move it along, tip it a bit, move it along, tip it a bit. Right. And as soon as you hit it, it'd just pull you over.
Right.
But I reckon after about, because, you know, you're pulling 50 to 60 hours a week.
Right.
I was strong.
Can only imagine.
After 6 months, I was running in my backyard with the 60-kilo dumbbell, just tossing it from hand to hand. And my mate's like going, how heavy is that? And I went, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 kilos. And he's like, mate, I'm 60 kilos. I'm like, yeah, but you don't push a ton of asphalt a day, you know?
Right.
You know, uphill, downhill, it's effing hot out here. And it was in the middle of summer as well. But the thing I really noticed with it was my energy was awesome, but everything felt like it was floating. I didn't have that one-on-one resistance with weight anymore. It was just like everything started to feel like it was floating and springy.
How did that happen? Like, that's crazy.
I didn't understand it at the time. I do now. And what happened afterwards was I left that, got real healthy, got depression, drinking a lot, smoking a lot, and I basically hit rock bottom until one day my old mate from England was like, why don't you get back into training? Because that was what seemed to really keep you alive. So that's when I actually just stopped all my bad habits on a dime and just went, nah, this is ridiculous. This isn't me. And went to my personal training course at college here called TAFE. And it was 12 months full time. Quit smoking, got myself healthy, and then took up TacFit because it turns out that during that time, somebody opened up a TacFit gym here. And I reckon after about 3 months of TacFit, I was off of medication. I was off of antidepressants. And the big thing about it was, can you refine your biomechanics and your breathing enough to control your heart rate? And because I'm learning that at the same time, I'm learning personal training. And I'm seeing these two completely different approaches to exercise. And yet, when we tested it after the course was near the end, all the TacFit guys thrashed everyone else. Absolutely thrashed them. The CrossFit guys challenged us to a test, and we said, do your course. All right, you set up whatever thing you want because we want to test this. So they set up their course. We beat them by a minute and a half. And we were just sort of like, yep, standing there watching them finishing all their reps and rounds. And by the end of it, they were smashed. Now, we were smashed, but the difference was we weren't going like this. We were going and just nicely recovering.
Interesting.
And we had this all recorded at the college, but even despite that, nothing changed. Like, the system was so heavily set in place that none of the professors or teachers or systems were willing to go, how is this working? This is a better way of training. Right. They just ignored it and went back to what they know. But despite that, what I noticed was I still didn't have that strength I had when I was a laborer. I could feel it coming, and I could start to feel that floating sensation come, But what was interesting was when I did my strength and conditioning certificate, you know, bench press, deadlift, all that stuff, I got weaker.
You got weaker?
I got weaker. Now, all of the guys in laboring that I know that have ever gone to the gym and started doing weights go back to work and go, wow, I'm struggling. I feel weaker. Now, I understand the science of it. And it's very simply this, is that if you work long hours physically, you burn out muscle and you start forcing the elasticity of your fascia to start working again. Your tendons get stronger, your ligaments get stronger, and you start to reproduce that mammalian movement. Now, if you watch mammals on any David Attenborough show, when they move on land, they glide. If you watch humans, they clunk, 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 clunk. Because we've basically lost all that elasticity. Because we're moving wrong. We've sat in chairs for so long. We no longer have a J-shaped spine. We've got an S-shaped spine.
Right.
But I don't know if you've seen in my videos, even adjusting a pelvis that much makes a difference between a thrust kick penetrating or not.
I've seen the ones I remember is when you were talking about dropping your weight right before impact. And I remember you talking about tucking your tailbone in, because that sinks in, because my teacher talks to us about that as well. And then we do a push test where we'll stick our arm out. And if our asses are pushed out, we get pushed back right away. Whereas if we tuck it in, then it just gets grounded and then we're able to stabilize much longer.
And interesting how humans are supposed to be shaped anyway. But I got into this training because I wanted to understand what that gap was between not just Eastern and Western training. Because if you watch a guy in Hong Kong doing Chinese martial arts, for example, his tailbone will be tucked, his back will be straight, his shoulders will be relaxed, and he'll be like very grounded. Mm-hmm. But then when you see a Westerner do it, they'll have their butts sticking out and they'll be like, you know. So I wanted not to just understand that, but what was missing from our training regimen that I was unable to replicate the strength I had as a laborer. And Systema seemed to fill that gap. So where I think an everyday person would go and take up a martial art, their focus isn't on things like, I need to restructure my joints, I need to realign my spine. They're going, I need to defend myself.
Right.
And that's the mindset. You go and do MMA not to get healthy. You go and do MMA to learn to fight.
Right.
But in that, we forget that it's the engineering of this first that's going to give you more access to capability in the actual fight, regardless of what style it is.
Right.
So, someone who, for example, an engineer that builds a bridge, they've got to get to the point of knowing exactly what material to use to know if that material itself is going to be load bearing enough. Is the angle correct? Is it able to go with movement? There's so much that goes into it, but we completely ignore that. And so even with boxers, I'll stand there and let them hit me, bang, bang, bang. Yeah. And they have hard hits, but nobody's ever said to them, look, if you do this, rotate that, relax there, do this and that, now hit me. And it goes bang and it goes in. I'm like, there you go. And they go, nobody's ever shown me that before.
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah. I do this to people all the time. And that was my thing, is like, to me, it's like most people want to just buy a gun and shoot it.
Right.
We're going, okay, look, you've got this really nice scope. You've bought all these accessories and stuff, but we need to tune here. We need to tune this. We need to change that spring. Now shoot it. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Right.
Now it's working. So, yeah, I really wanted to understand that gap, because it fascinates me how much power we're wasting just through poor movement. It's almost like we're chasing our tail with martial arts. So you get these guys, I've worked in places where these guys have studied martial arts for 20 odd years. And I'll get one of my girls to hit them who's been doing this for like 6 months. And they'll just turn gray. All the blood leaves their head and they sit down and they're just like, I'm like, breathe it out, breathe it out. And this girl's like going, but I hardly touched him.
Right.
And I'm like, this is the thing. Would you rather put the hard work in at the beginning and then spend the next 10 years developing skill, or spend 10 years trying to develop skill, but then when push comes to shove, it all falls apart because you've got no foundation?
Right. Right.
You know? And so by the time 17 to 20 years is done of doing a traditional martial art, you're still going to have to do your push-ups, your sit-ups, your squats, your bridges, your handstands, fix your bones, fix your joints, fix your tendons, because otherwise it's not going to work. It's all just going to fall apart.
Right.
You know? But whether or not people have that interest, you know.
You know what? Just watching your videos and then taking part in some of the things that you showed, which you were so nice to show to me and my buddy Scott through the videos. I can understand and relate to some level that, and I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's just how it is from my personal experience. Most people don't want to get hit, or they don't want the pain of getting hit, or they don't want the pain at all. They just want to treat sometimes their martial arts training like going to the gym and lifting weights. And even that is sometimes too much for people. So they always stay in the safe zone, right? What was it for you that made you say, in a nutshell, like, I'm willing to accept the pain? Because that's rare. That is rare. Even
that was the missing,
right?
That was the big component. Like, you know, I've done all this. You know, I've done my personal training, strength and conditioning, studied Shaolin for about 10 years, studied Tai Chi, studied Pame, did a bit of Aikido, did a bit of Hapkido. Then I did MoveNat, Tac Fit, Flow Fit, club bells, kettlebells, yoga. And even after all of those things, I'm still left with this gap going, I don't get it. There's something missing from no one's telling me.
Got it.
So I actually wrote to a guy called Kevin Secor over in Montreal. And it was interesting because my dad and I used to bond by playing this video game called Splinter Cell. And after he passed away, I picked up the newest one, which was Splinter Cell Blacklist. And while I'm training in TacFit, the guy who's running the TacFit gym goes, "Oh, hey, have you seen this video?" I said, "No, what is it?" He goes, "Have you heard of Splinter Cell Blacklist?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, man, I'm in the middle of playing that. I love it." He goes, "Check out this video. It's the guy who does the motion capture." And it was Kevin Secor. And basically, when you play Splinter Cell, you're pretty much playing Systema in a way. So he's the combat Systema guy over in Montreal. And he was just the most fascinating person to watch. He's very articulate, very eloquent, very polite, but his handling of weapons was immense. And there's this bit where he's talking about breaking someone's neck, that when you do it, you need to do it in regards to which way you want their body to fall. You know? So, and I was like, it's really interesting. And so I wrote to him and I told him everything I told you. And he wrote back and he goes, "Look, that's what got me into Systema, is exactly the same thing." He goes, "Since you're in Australia, I highly recommend you talk to Peter F. Tanis. He is hands down the best martial artist I've ever met. And Kevin Secor has traveled." And I was like, all right. So I contacted Peter and he's just like, "Yeah, come down anytime." Took probably about a year for me to get down there. But it was because my partner now goes, "Luke, as your birthday present, I'm going to buy you 5 days of personal training with Peter." And I was like, yes, wicked. Nice. So called him up, went down, had 5 days of personal training. After the first day, I was like this.
Just beaten.
I was amazing. Like,
oh, wow.
three push-ups, and I was like,
yeah,
but that first day he chased me with a live blade. All right,
that must have been something.
It was but the way he did it was to make me be able to analyze what I was going to go through.
Right.
And I said to him afterwards, I was like, I actually felt myself go through fight, flight, flow. And then the freeze came afterwards, and he goes, right. So that's the key thing. You've got to add pain and you've got to add actual fear to your training. Otherwise, you're never really going to know. So when we're doing the push-ups on our knuckles, he's like, yeah, you're going to do it on this floor. I was like, and it's all rough, spiky concrete. And I'm like, are you kidding? He's like, no, look. And he just gets down. He's talking to me and he's just going, yeah, it's all good. It's just all joints and ligaments, but you know that, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, all right, no worries. Man, I managed three. I was almost in tears. It was so painful.
Did it cut you up?
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
But it really allowed me to show how much pain was breaking down the whole system. And he's going, think of it like this. Why is it pain in your knuckles? You're allowing to shut down your whole system. Why aren't you isolating that pain? It's only 4 centimeters of pain. And I was like, yeah, that's true. So then a lot of our training from then on became about the ability to isolate pain, which was, if it's only hurting there, then it's only hurting there. Don't make yourself go, oh, I got to stop. Right. It hurts.
Right. And is that through your breathing technique that you've been talking about?
Oh, not just the breathing, but the willpower.
Got it.
To not let fear just shut down your brain, to not let pain shut down your brain. So if you, all right, I'm going to do 10, choose to do 10. Don't stop at 3.
Got it.
But the breathing then is very similar to what women learn during birth. Because then you're adding the slow exhale to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's how you control how hard that sort of pain thought comes into your head as well. So you're hitting it from different angles, physically, physiologically, and mentally.
Right.
Because I think the Russian way is, if you're going to do a push-up, why not do a push-up that's going to work everything? Why just do a push-up that's going to do this? Why not do a push-up that's going to do your core, your hammies, your quads, your feet, your fingers, your breathing, your brain, your neck? Do it all. Don't waste time.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The first time I ever tried yours, where it was, I only did 5-second cadences down and up. And by the second one, I was struggling to get my body up because it was just, it's tough. And I noticed that when you were pointing out to me, for me to get my back up or get my butt up higher, the higher my butt was, the more that I had to tighten up my core. So like it was not just hitting the chest, like you said, hitting everything. And it was weird because I actually felt more taxed doing 2 push-ups super slow than I would feel doing 30 or 50 push-ups straight, just kind of throwing my body weight up and down. It was a lot more taxing.
And one of the reasons for that is that the body and the brain are sort of hardwired to avoid weakness. So what we say is that a person, it's not a matter of whether they're weak or strong. We say, where are the holes in your strength?
Right.
So say this is the bottom of your squat, all right? And you go through that whole range here. If you're doing it slowly, what will happen is when you get to a hole, it'll go, and then to get back up, you go, huh. So the body jumps past those holes. So if you do a rep quickly, you rely on momentum to jump past weak points in your range of motion. Whereas if you slow it down, you start to develop the same neural capacity at short range as you do long. Meaning? And so basically you no longer have a gap in your strength.
Oh, okay.
So I can hit somebody as hard from here as I can from here.
Oh.
But it also means that I can have harder at distance because I can feel the entire build up through that short range into the long range.
Right.
So everything is still about ballistics. It all works in exactly the same way. So that's why, like, when you see me hit the sandbag, I'm not putting a lot of muscle into it, but you're hearing this mighty boom, boom, boom. And that's just the ballistics. But it comes from building up your short range. but also building up everything to be at the right angle, strength ratios. It's tough at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly having to make adjustments.
Yeah.
But once adjusted, then you can start learning Systema.
Got it. So foundation is strengthen or condition the body first. Once it's able to handle a certain level of whatever you want to call it, fitness, pressure, then you move on to start learning Systema in terms of its skill sets.
Combat. Yeah.
Combat. Got it.
Because it's the difference being, if I'm like this with my butt sticking out and I hit you, well, the technique's not going to work.
Right.
Whereas if I'm naturally like this and I hit you and it knocks the wind out of you, then the technique works. Then we learn working techniques.
Got it. Makes sense. It's like building the engine strong before you throw it in the car race versus just throwing the car in there, right?
Yeah, and that's right. Nobody ever buys a broken up car and goes and races it. They fix it up first and then they race it and then they fix it up and race it. But we don't seem to take that same approach with the human body. We just seem to like smash it, and then we go into a fight.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What? So you've trained a lot of people, obviously. What's the thing about people that stay with you? Like, what do they generally say, and what are the ones that when they want to leave, sometimes they don't say it, but if ever you found that out, what was it about them that made them want to leave? Like, what's the contrast between the two, I guess? Like with people that actually stay, they want to advance. Like you keep showing off that one young kid. I forgot his name right now, but like I'm impressed. Comrade. Yeah, that's right. Comrade. Yeah. Really impressive when you throw him against the wall. Jesus, man. Like that guy takes punishment. And it's like he takes it with a smile. I'm like, that's impressive. That's it. You know what? The one that really impressed me, like they're all impressive, but the one that made me go, holy fuck, you got to be kidding me, is when you got that girl, I guess she's the soccer mom you talked about, I don't know, maybe, and you got her to do like a reverse bridge and you were just throwing your forearm, just hammering away. And the biggest complaint she had was that she had a leg cramp. I'm like, you just smashed her on her stomach. Like, what was that, 5, 6, 7, 8 times? And then she drops for a 10-second break because of a leg cramp. I don't see, that doesn't calculate. It's like shooting somebody here and then it comes out here. It's like, that doesn't compute. That was impressive, man. Like how long did you have her in order to get her to that stage? Was that the 6-month one you were telling me about?
Maybe 3 months.
3 months. 3 months.
3 months. So what my main job, right, is teaching first aid for Red Cross. So that's my full-time job. And when we talk about musculoskeletal injuries, we always say, what are the functions of muscle? So what are the functions of muscle?
Oh, you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, to me, that's just the general ability to move, number one.
So one is move.
Yeah. And to be able to sustain. Huh?
What's number 2?
Well, these aren't in any particular order because I never thought about it. The other portion would be to sustain vital capabilities. So certain things inside of us should not be like falling out and falling apart.
Yeah. So structure, movement.
Yeah.
Another function, and this is just based on this is like the sort of sciencey, purpose of muscle. The third one is regulation of body temperature.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And the fourth main one is protection, especially your core, is protect your organs from damage.
Right.
Nobody trains number 4. We do movement. So we do crunches, sit-ups, and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But nobody works on that other part of the musculature being protection. You start light, and very quickly muscle goes, oh yeah, I forgot about that other job. Protection. Yeah, that's great. And so it starts to build. First, it's a neural thing. It's all about your nervous system. So first, the hitting is a neural thing. And then you start to build thicker coats and webs of fascia. So over time, you no longer need to tense up. You're just springy.
Got it.
That takes a long time. But one of the things that I came to understand was that tension and, or not even activation, what's that word that I'd like to use? Engagement. The ability to activate and engage are two different things. It's really difficult to get somebody to engage a muscle without hitting it. So I could get you to do a lot of sit-ups. Yet if I just came and knelt next to you and went ready, and as you were doing sit-ups, I went like this a couple of times, you'd go, oh, hey, oh, and then you'd feel your muscles go, oh.
Yeah.
And you're going, man, I thought they were tense. I thought they were activated. Now they're activated, and you'll do like 2 sit-ups and you'll burn out. And I'll be like, that is core engagement.
Got it. Got it.
Once that happens, it's like restarting a broken car. All right. No, off. No, off. No, bum, 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 off. One day it just switches on, and you'll get up out of the chair, out of bed, and you'll go, and it's like somebody just grabs your core, pulls you. And then you have to relearn movement all over again.
Does that happen because the core is over engaged during the sit up, the sitting up process?
Now it's engaged. That's the thing. It's actually it's alive. It's working.
Got it.
So it's the thing that, you know, the guy who plays hockey, Hayden, he plays hockey for Australia, and by, you know, sports standards, he's super fit. All right. First session, 3 squats, throws up. Yesterday we were training, making him do a lot of duck walks and slow squats. He stands up, he almost falls over. He goes, I can't feel my legs. And I was like, we're only 20 minutes into training. The good thing is about this guy is that because of his background in exercise physiology, he gets it. And he's just like, this is everything missing. I'm like, that's right. But this is the thing. You can take someone who's super athletic, but are their muscles actually engaging? Really difficult to engage muscle without some sort of pressure being put on it.
Got it. That makes sense. And considering that all of your videos, or most of your videos, you're usually showing some sort of contact when the guy's doing a push-up or a squat or a sit-up. I guess it's safe to say that's the main purpose, right? Is to make sure they're fully engaged alongside the benefit of helping them calm their nervous system down, because then they're used to that kind of pressure.
Absolutely. It's 100% that. And the other thing is that you make them do it for so long, it forces them to start to switch off stuff that doesn't need to be tense.
Got it. So when you say so long, like how often, like in contrast for me and Scott, when we started giving each other that hit to the stomach, I would literally have to take a week, because I would like, it was okay. But after day 2, day 3, I was like, holy shit, I still got like this bruise, that bruise. And like, what the fuck? It hurts just to do this. And then after a couple of weeks, and I was like, okay, now 5 days and I'm healed. Now 4 days. Now I can get to about a day or 2, and then I can go at it again. Did you, like, how often are you guys doing this? Or when you start somebody new, how often do you put them through that kind of pressure? Because I was only good for 1 a week. Tough.
We do it a lot, but I am mindful of the fact that because of all of our lifestyles, we can't have a set time to train. So we just text each other, and when we can meet up, we can meet up.
Got it.
So if, say, we trained on Monday and we did conditioning, and then we meet up on Tuesday, we'll do movement.
Got it. So it's not every day.
But if it's been Monday and then we're meeting up on Friday, we might do conditioning again, but more movement stuff.
Got it. So there's a time gap between.
Yeah, for recovery. So, and your recovery gets shorter and shorter and shorter.
Right.
We generally do the body walking every day because people just over time ask for it. At the beginning, they fear it. They hate it. Right. People hate walking on people, and they hate being walked on. Right. And after a certain amount of time, the guys turn up at class and go, someone, before I've even said, hey, let's start, whatever, we go, oh, could you guys come and walk? I may have had a really tough day today. Yeah, no worries. And then 3 of us are walking them, and they'll get up and go, oh, thanks, man. I feel so much better now. And it's genuine. but it helps relax.
Massage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my guys said that. Remember that video I sent you where it was me and two other guys were inside the studio? This was months ago. The bigger Asian guy that was lying down, he said, "Oh wow, that felt so good. Did you hear that?" And I was like, "Hear what?" And he's like, "Oh, you cracked my back like when I go and get a massage." Like, dude,
Yeah.
this one's free, so it felt even better. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Why? Didn't think of that side benefit, but
That's
I mean,
what people in my class is that I don't hit them up for money all the time.
that's unreal. That I can see how that could feel good. I gotta be honest with you. The first time I had Chris, that's his name, he's a big guy. When he stood on my chest, I was a little tense, and I noticed that my neck pops up. I wasn't trying to get it off the ground, and then you had responded by saying, "Oh, Allan, you want to try to get your head back as much as you can." Is that like a physiological response that you normally get? Like, 'cause I attested my response to bench press. When I'm bench pressing, I actually do put my head up a little because I find that it just allows me to engage my muscles a little more. Kind of like when we're doing the push-up, like
Yeah.
the push-up, we're arched like this. So I just basically took that concept and reversed it from my bench press, and I found it more applicable. But when you said you want to try to get your head back, I guess, I mean, you fill me in on that. Like if I was to teach that to somebody or explain it, what would be the lump sum to the idea of head going back versus forward?
So it's like when people do, say people when people do a push-up, one of the things that I really point out to people is that their scaps pull back, right? And actually people to do that. Whereas I'm going, try to keep them apart, because it's about being able to engage at any length, not just squeezing things together. All right. So it's sort of like, yeah, if the muscle's extended at its full length, are you getting as much power in full length as you are during a contraction?
Right.
So the problem is that we've got this mindset of training in mainstream strength and fitness of contract, expand, but try contracting but keeping it apart, because we have layers of muscle. I think this is something people forget. We go, this muscle is for that. It's like, well, actually, remember, it's a web. It's a three-dimensional web of musculature. Okay. Right. So in keeping your scaps apart, you'll develop a lot of ballistic power than doing push-ups and letting your scaps come together, because squeezing a muscle is not as good as trying to contract it at length.
Got it.
So if you're doing a pull-up, for example, I want you to go all the way down and then all the way up and then all the way down. There's no point doing it from here like this. You'll just get tendonitis and you'll be really strong here and then really weak through here.
Got it.
It's what makes dead hang so awesome.
Challenging, but definitely awesome once you get good at it.
Things they hurt.
Oh God, yeah. Well, I saw you do yours when you posted that other video. I'm always intrigued by everybody's, like, when I find somebody that does something unique, I'm always like eyeballs on, man, because I'm a sponge for that knowledge. And I noticed that you like doing yours slow as well, and you had changed your breathing as you were going up and down, even with your L sit. And that's when I had asked you about breathing, and you said that the goal is to try to separate the breathing from the movement, so you're not always relying on the breathing to execute your movement properly.
So one of the things that I've yet to sort of like really be able to verify this with my trainers, because COVID, we couldn't travel, but it's just been difficult getting down to see him. But what I felt happened with me was that the Systema and TacFit made me realize that my movement / strength was all tangled up with my breathing, and I didn't know which was the difference between one or the other. Okay. Because they say to get power, you hold your breath. And I'm like, but why should you do that? Because if I had an empty bar, I don't need to hold my breath to push it. So again, it's just a matter of strength. So if they're saying get more power by holding your breath, I'm going, well, no, you're just not strong enough.
Right.
So for me, what I went through was this really difficult process with breathing, where I had to separate my breathing from my movement so I could know what the difference was between the two. And as soon as I could, then I worked out how they go together. And so I then realized that the lungs are like a gearbox. All right. If you hold your breath, that's like being stuck in first gear.
Okay.
So, for example, if I got you to exhale all the air out of your lungs and then said, right, do 10 push-ups, you might collapse after about 3. All right. Because your body just hasn't learned to separate one strength from another. Your breathing strength and your press strength aren't separated enough.
Got it.
So on the exertion of power, I don't want to be holding my breath because that'll burn me out. I want to get to this really high level that no matter how much power I exert, I can still breathe. And that's just a matter of strength.
Is that just through repetition to build a habit?
Yeah, it's just doing things like, all right, your goal today, 16 push-ups. You're going to do 4 push-ups breathing out, followed by 4 push-ups holding empty, followed by 4 push-ups breathing in, followed by 4 push-ups holding your breath. But during that whole time, try not to let your neck get tense. Don't.
Oh shit. Hey, take a step back on that one because the audio just cut out completely. Yeah, I heard the shit.
You still there?
There we go. Yeah, sorry, it got cut off at the point where you said try doing 16 push-ups and you're gonna break them up by 4 by 4 by 4. The last thing I heard you say was do 4 push-ups but hold your breath, and then it just went blank.
Yeah. So you do 4 push-ups breathing out. So that's 1 breath.
Right. Oh, 1 full breath. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then 4 holding empty. 4 breathing in. 4 holding full. And then relax, shake it off. Now, at the beginning, you might only be able to do 2, 2, 2, 2.
Right.
But it's a way of analyzing where your strength is breaking down because it's not separate enough from your breathing. But the first thing that's going to happen is that you're going to quit because your air is going to make your brain go, oh my God, breathe. And you'll go.
Got it.
So breathing is linked directly to the fear part of your brain. Okay.
Breathing is linked directly.
So if I took food away from you, how long have you got to live?
Food up to 30 days, give or take, right?
If I took water away from you, how long have you got to live?
3 to 4 days if I'm lucky.
If I took air away from you, how long have you got to live?
Oh man, I suck. So maybe 30 seconds.
It's like minutes in comparison.
Right.
So because of that and the way we live, we've become addicted to air. We overbreathe.
Okay.
Because we're so fearful of dying. Once the air's gone, we're dead.
Got it.
And what happens, and this is just my own theory, what happens is that it generates us living in a state of secondary stress. So secondary stress is, oh my God, what if? Whereas in nature, we were living in primary stress, which was we'd only be stressed when there is an actual threat in front of us.
Got it. That makes sense.
Because if you watch, say, a zebra get chased down by a lion, legs it, gets away, looks around, and then it shakes. And then it just carries on. So that's primary stress, and that it's gone. The threat's gone. I can relax, so it shakes off to switch off its nervous system, and it goes back to eating. Whereas for us, we're in this constant state of bills, rent, mortgage, got a job to go to, got people to please, got Instagram to, and it's just like, oh my God, what if? And so our breathing exacerbates that because we inhale a lot. So the theory is that we have hyperoxygenated blood. So it's this, you're stuck in this loop of secondary stress.
Right.
So first and foremost, we need to lose that, because that then goes into your fighting style. If you fight in secondary stress, you're like this, right? And you start burning out a lot of energy. If you're just in a state of primary stress, you're like, bang, bang. You just make decisive movements. You don't have to be going because you're constantly worried about what the other guy's going to do. It's a very decisive, I'm going to hit him, then I'm going to pull out my gun and shoot him, put my gun away and go get a coffee. All right. Because it's for guys who don't want to muck around. It's a certain mindset.
Right.
But I suppose what I've really enjoyed about this training is that it's shown how much training is involved. So much so you have to break out of the mainstream to get to a point where you don't fight to beat people. You fight to make them stop wanting to fight.
I can appreciate that. That's similar to what my coach says.
Right. So the majority of like self-defense videos that we see, especially on Instagram, and regardless of whether they're special forces guys or not, is about the complete obliteration of your opponent.
Right.
Whereas we're getting it that our punches are so strong, our grabs are so strong, our movement is so decisive that we go bang, send a shockwave through their body. And I go, are you sure you want to keep fighting? Because there's more. Or would you rather go get a drink? And hopefully they'll go, let's go get a drink. I say, all right, my shout, we'll sit down, talk about it. I think overall that is a better mindset for society.
Agreed. Well said.
Make yourself so effing strong and so damn impenetrable, you no longer need to hurt people beyond what's necessary.
That's
the
huge.
huge scope for me is about our place in society. It's nothing more or less than that. It's here I am in society. I can either be really weak and fearful and then make decisions that aren't necessarily going to pass on positivity, or I can train the absolute shit out of myself, hit sandbags, make myself bleed every class, get walked on in boots, make myself so strong that I can now be kind.
Yeah.
Kindness is a lot of strength because you have to lose your fear first.
Say that one more time. That was good.
No, forgot what I said. Something like kindness takes a lot of strength because you have to lose your fear first.
Right. That's huge, man. That's huge.
Otherwise you're just faking it, aren't you? You're being a bleeding heart.
Right.
I'm being kind to you so you don't hurt me. Whereas I'm being kind to you because I want you to be a better person. That's
a big difference in mindset.
Huge difference in mindset.
Huge. Hey, Luke, for the sake of the fact that I want to be respectful of your time. It's been an hour. I don't know how much it's going to cost your data, so you got to check it.
There's heaps. Don't stress. I'm happy to keep talking.
Okay, I still got a good 10 minutes, man. So yeah, no, please share. I wish I had more time because the stuff you're sharing is super solid. I've always enjoyed watching people do different kinds of. I've never been a mainstream guy. Like all my friends like going with the herd, and I've just grown up knowing that if I'm going that same direction, it's just never worked out well for me. I've always just been automatically attracted to going the other way because it just works better. So for you, have you always been like this kind of guy that's just like doing things that are different from the crowd, or did that just kind of dawn on you one day?
I guess so. I put it to like, there was this book I was reading once called Natural Born Hero. And I think it was that one that was talking about different sort of like genetic types of people. And I always just looked at myself as like, well, say we still lived naturally. Our village would be made up of guys who are drawn to plowing. There would be guys who are drawn to hunting. There'd be guys who are drawn to night watch. Like everybody has this sort of like genetic role to play for the survival of the species.
Right.
And I think I was a night watchman or something because I love the nighttime. I love being awake at night, but all the skills that I have wanted to develop have been very stealthy and very sort of like solo. So I was captain of the school fencing team. I was really into like rock climbing and abseiling and canoeing and stuff. But team sports I was rubbish at. Not because I wasn't a team player. I don't understand my place in a team.
Right.
It just feel out of place. Whereas when I'm by myself, I'm allowed to just do whatever the hell I want to get the job done.
Right.
Is what it really comes down to. It's like with the shooting. Oh man, nobody likes me in the shooting industry. Why? Because I've been shooting for about 2 years and I'm better at shooting than them. But I'm like, yeah, but it's just biomechanics. Like all you're doing is this. It's not difficult.
Right.
But I taught myself firearms enough to become a firearms instructor. So I'm a licensed firearms instructor.
And did that stem from your systemic training? Because I noticed that the way that you just like position yourself and with your shoulders down, elbows down, you talk about it. I mean, I was like, man, that's answers so many of my past questions when I go shoot with my friends. And I think that I'd be able to hit that thing, and all of a sudden it'd be like off to the left or off to the right. Or I get so frustrated, I'd just be like, I would collapse after about an hour of training of shooting, because I was like, okay, I'm not doing this right. Like, what the hell am I not doing right? And after I saw that video, I was like, well, fuck, no wonder why I'm not cognizant of anything right now. Like, I just point and shoot, but I don't know where my elbows are. I don't know where my shoulder is. I don't know if I've arched my back or if I'm sticking my chest out. Like, I don't know. I wasn't aware of any of that.
Yeah.
You know? So it makes sense that you could be so much more on point when your body's properly aligned.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing. I think it's such a good metaphor for the way we approach a lot of stuff, because people spend like $6,000 on trying to make their firearm better. You know, they'll customize the shit out of it. And I'm going, why don't you fix your body and then you have to spend less on the gun? But then it's also a bragging right, isn't it? Oh, look at my gun. I've spent $6,000 customizing it. It's beautiful. I'm like, you're fat and you can't even bend down and touch your toes. It's no wonder you need to spend $6,000 on accessories. Like, come on, let's feel about this.
Right. Right. That's crazy.
So, yeah, for me, it's always about, it's like, look, it's like if I put a cannon on a tripod. If the tripod's made of sticks, what good is the gun? You know? So you're the tripod. You've got to be, it's all about you and your body. You should be able to pick up any gun, fire 5 to 10 rounds and go, oh, I see how this gun works, and then just shoot it normally.
Interesting. I don't shoot enough to think about that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. There's a really,
sorry, go ahead.
Before I forget, a really interesting video a mate showed me of the Spetsnaz doing live rounds training. And it's about 5 or 6 Spetsnaz guys kick a door down, throw in a flashbang, and they're using live rounds in their AKs. One guy's actually using an AK one-handed above the top of his mate's head, going ba 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 ba. Now, when I shoot a pistol, my recoil goes like this. That guy is so strong that one-handed with an AK going ba 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 ba.
And it's not flying out; it's just staying.
It's just going like this. Wow. Now, when people watch, and this is the thing that annoys me, when most people watch that, they'll go, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that with one hand," and I'm going, "No, think about how strong that guy's grip is. That he's able to do it. He's able to access these techniques now. That's where the juice is. How did he make his hand that? How did he make his structure so strong that he can now fire?" Needed to. That was the only gun he had, and he was holding his mate to the side or holding his shield or whatever, and he had to shoot with one hand. They train so that they can, if they have to. Whereas we have got this real, I don't know, this, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like American culture or something, but we have to shoot the same way as everyone else. And there's all these rules of like, I've got to go look like a robot. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Because if you do something different, you get thrown out to the wolves.
Right.
Whereas I'm going, that's all biomechanically incorrect. Why are you being like a robot and doing this? Whereas you could just be smooth, do this.
Is that how you deployed? Is that your practice for just a smooth transition out?
Yeah. It's just the push-up.
Okay, that makes sense. See, I like that. I like how you can correlate one idea and then conceptualize it to using it on another plane. And then I'm assuming that's just like a domino effect where you use it in one area, it can apply to so many other places in life, right?
Because you do it and you go, oh, that's just the squat. Oh, that's just the bridge.
Right.
I got bored of shooting probably about 6 months after taking it up, and I wrote to my instructor and went, I was really excited about taking up shooting. Now I find it really boring. He goes, yeah, Sistema does that, doesn't it? I'm like, yeah, everything's boring.
Everything is boring.
Everything's boring.
Well, if you have the ability to get to a level of mastery or at least sustainability or efficiency in a short period of time, especially if you're comparing yourself to other people around you who are not, I could see how it could bore the shit out of you relatively fast because the challenge is over then.
What would make it interesting if I lived in a world where people went, oh, wow, show us. Just so that, like, I love sharing information. And it's nothing to do with them coming to me. It's like, I want to share information so that they can give me feedback and then I can refine that information. So we're all working together.
Right.
Whereas we get so protective with knowledge. You know, we want to label it. We want to brand it. We want to sell it. And it's just like, I reckon, and I've talked about this with Peter a lot, and he agrees, but all of the super new ultra exercises people are discovering is just the same shit we used to do in World War I and World War II.
Really?
Yep. All the stuff that I do is exactly what the British commandos did. It's what the Spetsnaz did. It's what everyone used to do in World War II. Fairbairn and Sy trained the British commandos developing fascia.
Interesting. Never thought of that. But then, I mean, I was never around for World War I or II, but I've never had anybody explain that to me either, which would make sense. They were like tough as nails back in the day, right? And
they were manly men. They were men, you know?
Yeah, they were.
I do remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger first came out, I said to my dad and my uncle, I want big muscles like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they both went, no, don't worry about muscle. It's all about your tendons. It's all about your tendons and ligaments. And that's how people used to train. If you look at older pictures of like John Saxon and Chuck Norris, they just had a very ape-like build.
Right.
They weren't ripped with six packs and stuff.
Right.
Because those have nothing to do with it.
Right.
They were all into tendon and ligament training and bone conditioning and stuff. And I remember that very clearly. But Schwarzenegger comes out and it changed everything.
Oh, yeah, because he was a monster.
Now, really difficult trying to separate the aesthetics from the function.
Yeah, I'm only assuming that it probably has something to do with the fast recognition of looking a certain way. And, you know, they always get the movies, they get the girls, they get the whatever it is that people want. Yeah, the big muscles tend to captivate more attention on video, at least until it's actually functional, right? Like that was my big challenge. I saw those guys, and like you, I was like, God damn, I gotta look at them. They're like heroes, man. They're like Greek gods. But then in terms of performance, I never knew till later that a lot of the things that I would want to perform that I was assuming they could do, they could not do. Like, you know, somebody that big, get them to run a quarter mile or even like a 5-mile run, that's not happening. And then I saw an interview where Sylvester Stallone, he was super ripped for one of his movies. And he said every take they had to stop because he was cramping all the time. I think it was one of either his Rambo movie or the one where he was on ice on the side of a mountain. It's like way back in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he said he was cramping all the time. And I was like,
wasn't it
ripped?
Yeah. Huh? Was it Rocky 4?
It was, it must have been like 15 years ago that I heard this, but I just brush it off. Like, whatever. I still want the big muscles. And then I finally got to a certain place where I had some form of a frame, but then I noticed my performance went shit to the floor. Like I couldn't do a sit-up properly. And I realized it's because I was too top heavy. I would go and pick something up from the ground and just from twisting, I was like, oh shit, my back. And like, what the fuck is this? You know, I look good. This is like 2012, right? Like I look good, but I keep hurting myself. Like, how is this possible? And then I, you know, later on realized, okay, well, this is why I'm training to look good, but I'm not training for functionality. That's a totally different ballgame.
Man, that's all be about tendons, ligaments, connection to bone density, all that stuff. And, you know, and that the end to me is what the term Systema means.
Right.
You know, there's, you know, we've talked about this. To me, there's two Systemas. There's one that's the brand,
Right.
which is run by Vasiliev. And then there's just the term Systema, which refers to anything that is systemic training.
And systemic training in your explanation would be, like, for anybody who wants to watch this and they're like, well, what does he mean by that? You'd say,
so anything that, say, does your breathing, your psychology, your bones, your tendons, your ligaments, your organs. It's funny, you actually said it in I think it was Spider-Man Homecoming, and Tony Stark's in the bedroom with Peter Parker and he goes, you're in need of a systemic upgrade. And I was like, that's right, it's a systemic upgrade.
Right.
So it's all of that stuff. And I think this is where, like, martial arts, or especially Chinese martial arts, got lost in translation, because they'd say, I study an internal art, and you're doing an external art. And then we started talking about qi and energy. Of course, energy exists. It's everywhere. You know, there's atomic level energy inside every particle. But I think because of movies and media, we started thinking that when people said, it's qi, they're blasting energy from their hands and stuff. Right. Whereas I'm going, through systemic training, your energy levels change and you just feel brighter, you just feel more flowy and good. But it takes a lot of hard work. Otherwise, to me, you're faking it.
Right.
In terms of, you can get the most amazing yoga teacher on Instagram who's doing perfect yoga in her air-conditioned room with her fancy clothing and all these nice pictures and music and sound effects, yet take her out in the street and she'll burst out crying at the first sign of stress. And I'm like, well, what's the point? Why not do yoga where, you know, yoga was a warrior's art. I get guys doing bridges, I hit them. I get them doing down dog, I hit them, I move them to make their bodies strain and struggle and breathe and then relax and carry on. And, you know, if you're not upping the level of stress against your ability to stay calm, then you'll only ever be good at that level of stress. So if you only ever train on a mat, well, I'm sorry, but if I take you out into concrete, good chances are a lot of your jits is going to fall out the window. Because your stress resilience will just not be there. Whereas we just train. Now, when we go onto mats, it's so easy that we can focus on developing whatever we want to do on the mats.
Right.
So with all of the training that we do, training has to be done in a way where you're constantly upping stress.
Right.
Whilst trying to maintain concentration and relaxation.
Yeah. That's a really good comparison. I liked how you said the whole goal is to keep getting comfortable with increased stress. Like sometimes we'll do that and I'm just generalizing for my guys, or like people that are over here, when they're focusing on just trying to get good in one particular area, they think that they'll be good in every area. And I find sometimes when people stay too much in one area, like let's say it's the dojo or the studio, they assume that they'll be great out there in the street or at night or at the beach during the time. And it doesn't always translate because the variables are so different. It's like jumping in from a Ford F-150 to a Lamborghini, and you're trying to hit that on a race that's all curved and you don't even know what the platform's like. Just driving it alone is going to be different between the two, let alone how it maneuvers on the street. So I get it. I totally get where you're trying.
100%. And this is the thing I think people need to understand about stress is that, you know, I look at stress as being quite a neutral thing. Right. Because you have distress and eustress. So a good experience of stress or a bad experience of stress, whereas we just go, oh my God, it's stress, must be awful.
Right.
Well, what is bench press?
Stress.
What is weights? So you're getting used to a certain level of stress, and to get stronger, you up it. And then when you get used to that, you up it. When you get used to that, you up it. So if you're just doing, say, jits on a mat, well, you're not upping your level of stress. What you should do is go and do jits out in the street, go do jits out in a field, go do jits when it's pouring with rain, like do jits on the beach. I wish I still had this video, but I used to work in a jiu-jitsu place, and there's this guy who was just so open-minded, and he goes, Luke, I want to understand more about what you are doing. And he's this French guy. And I was like, okay, well, I'll take you down to Byron. So we drove down to Byron Bay, and we're on the beach. And I said, right, you know, I've only been doing jits for about 3 months. And he's like, yep. I said, now, when we're on the mat, what do you like to me? He goes, I turn you into origami. I'm like, that's right. This guy was like, I don't know how they do their belts, but he was like 3-stripe blue belt ninja warrior or whatever. I couldn't do shit against him on a mat.
Wow, amazing.
And we videoed this. He could not get me down once. And all we did was stand in water that was about shin deep, no shirt, just in our swimming trunks. Every time he tried to do something, I'd use the environment against him. He'd get me into a lock, I'd dunk him under the water. I'd feel a wave come, I'd push his legs against the wave and he'd tip. He'd try to grab me, but I was wet, so I'd just get out of it. And we did this for about an hour, and not once was he able to get me down, and I beat him every time.
Interesting.
And that really struck a chord with this guy. But that's not about, whether jiu-jitsu's good or not. That's nothing to do with this conversation. It's you guys, people need to break out of their comfort zone and go do jits on the beach.
Right.
You know, change it up. And I think where a lot of arts are faltering because we're relying too much on the uniform, the place, the location. There's too many set variables.
Right.
It's too organized.
Right.
Whereas Mike don't even know where we're going to be training this afternoon. Where are we training? Let's go to the car park. Let's go.
Got it. Constantly changing the environment. Yeah, no, that's smart. I like that.
Over time, giving a shit. They're just like, yep, cool, see you there. Because they cope. Yeah, I like
that. Hey, listen, I hate at this, but I gotta go only because I'm moving. I gotta go meet my new landlords. I want to end off though with people being able to reach out to you. So hopefully the audio will still stick because there's still a little bit of lag here and there, but hopefully it won't show up in the recording. Give me a couple of websites that people can reach out to find you, because I'm sure after we start posting this and leave it out on the net, well, I'll send it to you first to make sure you're good with it. And then if you like it,
look up what you like. I don't need to say. I'll see it once it's up.
Okay, that works too. Give people some verbal where they can find you then, buddy.
So cossackboxing.com.au or thecombatsystem.com.au. So the Combat System is my teacher's website for Systema. Cossack Boxing is just what I called it because I was trying to get away from the name Systema. I did get permission from the head of the Cossacks here in Australia to use it, so it's all legit. He was like, yes, you may use it. Yes, you do true Cossack training. So, yeah, settle down.
Man. Well, obviously, you're doing a good job with the training, the system. He probably sees your stuff all the time, too, as many people probably do. And I'm pretty sure after this interview, some people want to check you out further. They'll be like, holy shit. They'll probably do to themselves what I did when I started watching your stuff. Oh, holy shit, this guy did. Holy shit, this guy.
No. You know what's going to happen is we'll get a call from Joe Rogan going, oh, I could beat the shit out of that guy. I'll be like, yeah, you could. But that doesn't mean you can squat. Let me fix your push-up.
You know, I got a feeling that Joe Rogan, I see him as an intelligent guy. So when he goes outside the ring, I'm pretty sure he's like, okay, it's just I could see how this could really benefit people going into the ring, right?
Yeah. I have to say, it's strange that we use that as a marker, though, the whole ring fighting thing, because, after working in armed security for so long, I was just like, there's not a lot of it that is helpful in that sense, but I can see why it's useful for civilians, but when it becomes a professional job that you're getting paid to do, there's a lot of stuff that you still need to relearn anyway that you can't do in the ring. But anyway, that's another podcast, I think.
I think so. And now that you brought that up, I'm pretty sure that's something that people might want to come to you to talk about.
Don't talk to me about it. I'll just send you to guys I know. People will be like,
well, we can bring them into this conversation, and then you guys can make a big stir pot about what you guys have learned.
I'm just a personal trainer. I don't know anything. I just work this stuff out.
Right. I love the humbleness. I love the humbleness in you, man.
I just don't want to get up.
It makes two of us, buddy. Keep it humble. That way we never have to worry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, brother. Take care.
Good time. I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy, okay? Have a good weekend.
All right,
Happy
nice.
Sunday.